Okay, now that we're all here, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Jim has a knack of getting here in the seconds beforehand. So first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the October 28th meeting. Do I hear a motion? Second. All right, all in favor, please cast your vote. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Number 3, ratify OSET claims. Oh, sorry, I forgot that. I'm pitch hitting again today, so that's all right. You see the list of claims for the total amount for this period of time. Are there any specific questions? I tell you what, I'd like to point out a couple of things. The SIP payment to Boeing for project number 1, which is year 3, 240 jobs created, and the SIP payment to Boeing for project number 2, which year 2, 554 jobs created. Again, performance-based metrics. Any questions, thoughts, concerns?
Just a brief, can I get some brief comments on FMC?
Brief comments on FMC Technologies for the contract period 1 and 2. 71 jobs.
FMC has created 17 jobs, I believe, in the first year and 54 in the second. Is that correct?
And the type of jobs?
They are manufacturing type jobs.
Any other questions? Move the claims. Do I hear a second? All right, if you'll please cast your vote. All in favor? Thank you very much. Now on to items 4 for individual consideration. I'd like to go a little out of order and take on item L, and that is ratifying and approving, and it should be in your new agenda on your desk, ratifying and approving addendas 1, 2, and 3 and adopting joint resolution with the City of Oklahoma City and the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust, extending time to award contract and awarding a joint contract to Rudy Construction Company. And I will stop right there and let Mr. Mike continue with your comments.
I appreciate it. I, too, am pinch hitting today, so if I don't give you the information you need, please let me know, and I'll try to get it for you. Streetscape Package 7B bid with Park Avenue from Hudson to Broadway identified as the base bid, and then there were various alternates, but the two I want to draw your attention to are alternates 3 and 4, which was for additional work behind the right-of-way line at both Oklahoma Tower and the library. Bids were received on November 25th. Rudy Construction submitted the only bid. Staff evaluated the unit prices in Streetscape Package 7B against other recent bids by Rudy and other local contractors, and the evaluation revealed pricing to be generally consistent based on current market conditions. Therefore, our request is for your consideration on approval of the base bid plus alternates 3 and 4. Future agreements will be executed with Oklahoma Tower and the library properties to provide reimbursement for the cost of those alternates.
Any questions you have?
I do, thank you. Just a general question first, that is, what can we do to attract more interest from other qualified vendors such that we have some market comparatives?
Absolutely. You know, it seems like the last few Project 180 Streetscape bids have really kind of fallen down to just 2 interested bidders. It was thought at one time maybe our packages were too large and we would benefit by breaking them into smaller pieces and therefore attracting maybe some smaller contractors. We've done that and really just kind of have ended up with the same 2 again. I think at this point we really feel like we're getting into the more difficult areas of downtown. I mean, when we look at like a Park Avenue, it's going to be really, really tough. The thought is there's lots of work out there and probably people can, you know, pursue other work that may be a little bit easier and not put up with some of the hassles of working downtown. We continue to kind of evaluate and talk to contractors and engineers. based on the current condition, we do feel comfortable recommending the sole bid, but it is a concern of ours of how to attract more bidders.
Just a follow-up question, if I might, that is, if I recall, we had a package that was estimated by the engineer at either 10 to 12 million, so we broke it up into two relatively equal projects. We're now at 7 million for one half.
And kind of consider, Mr. Roth, that those contracts always have a paving portion, and then it has a utility portion. And the utility, the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust, is paying for those utility upgrades. So I think when we looked at that initial estimate, there wasn't adequate information on what Aquit's contribution would be. So this bid did fall in line with what we expected it to be. It was not significantly more than what we thought when we did break the single package into two.
Thank you. I appreciate you reminding me of that. I think you had shared that at a previous meeting. I had forgotten that point. Just a couple of just questions about logistics more than value. Obviously, and we're all concerned that $7 million for 2 blocks
Absolutely.
is significant, but that is the core of the city's business district, and so it's going to be really difficult logistics. I don't know if you commute that way, but as someone who does, I'll share with you 2 high-rise parking garages supporting the Devon Energy Center are nearly impossible to get out in a timely way now with Harvey closed off, and so you've got all roads leading to Rome, and Rome is under construction, and it's just rather difficult. And I wondered if you've approached the contract with any kind of accelerated benefits or liquidated damages or something that includes and encourages work over the non-business hours and weekends?
We have, and I think you're going to see that in one of our later discussions today as we talk about a change order on 7A. But again, as we've broken these down, we've identified smaller work areas, but we have tied that with a milestone completion date, and the contractor has the ability to either receive a financial incentive for finishing early or pay a financial disincentive for finishing late. When we look at a situation like Harvey, the way that 7B has been phased, at least half of that intersection does have to stay open at all times. The intersection obviously cannot close. We as staff actually are working with the contractor as we know more about the way 6A and 7A have gone. We feel like we would like to recommend to the contractor a different starting point, so it does allow a little more time to finish some of that work on Harvey. The goal would be to always provide 2 ways of ingress or egress to that Harvey point, and I think that we can achieve that. It may not always be a direct route, but I think you wouldn't be limited to, say, always having to go back to Hudson, which, again, just as we get down to this kind of middle part of downtown, it just really kind of continues to become more difficult to provide those multiple access points.
Well, I'm grateful and appreciate every effort that you've just described. I think that's probably as much as can be done with the complicated logistics. I've appreciated the sequencing that I think I've observed. Things like before Harvey comes offline, Robinson was reopened before it was even completed and some of that. So my hat's off to you on that. This is rather difficult.
It is very difficult, and I think what you're going to see with 7B, even though we're asking you to consider the contract today, it probably will not start until the first or middle part of March, and it will probably start in the block of park between Robinson and Broadway. And that timing has really been done to allow Couch Drive to be completed in the Kerr Park project, to allow Kerr between Robinson and Broadway to be completed in the 6A contract, and then to allow the Kerr-Harvey intersection to be completed in the 7A contract. So it really has become kind of a chess game of moving pieces around. And I think we're fortunate because in general people have been very tolerant and willing to accept that in the sake of progress, but it is very taxing on both folks who come to and leave from downtown every day, as well as just businesses who, have to operate and live here.
All right, thank you for the information. Thank you.
Larry?
Kathy, if you would remind me, Is this not the same stretch that we're doing the study on for downtown retail?
Yes, it is, yes.
Is anybody concerned at all that the work that we're doing here might not match what the consultants come up with from the downtown retail study?
We already have a draft of the retail study, and we've been working with Public Works to make sure that the recommendations that are in the study can either be handled through change orders or other minor adjustments in the construction. I don't think there's anything major that's contemplated in the retail study that would impact Project 180. There's changes to some of the buildings that might have to be made that are actually bigger changes than what we would have to do in the streetscape project.
Any other questions? Mike, appreciate your thoughtful explanation. And Jim, thank you for your caring questions as it relates to traffic flow and so on. Chair would entertain a motion. Second. All right. Please cast your vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Number A on the items for discussion is a resolution recommending the utilization of existing purchasing agreements with Telco Communications for the installation of new conduit and manholes and the purchase of existing conduit and manholes for Project MC 0396 for a total of $187,977. So in essence, it's a Telco resolution. Do you also have remarks, Mike?
Yes, ma'am. Just as a brief explanation, the construction contracts for the first 5 streetscape packages required the installation of an underground conduit and manhole system to facilitate the city's intelligent traffic system for traffic signal operation. In the 4 years since those efforts began, advancements in wireless technology have made it such that infrastructure is no longer required for ITS. However, that sort of conduit and manhole grid system, which links streets to intersections, does have other opportunities for various other city functions, most notably telecommunication cabling. For that reason, staff is asking for your consideration to utilize an existing pricing agreement to continue the conduit and manhole system in the areas of packages 6 and 7 while the pavement is removed.
Any questions of Mike? Have a motion. Do I have a second? Please cast your vote. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Mike. Item B, final acceptance of project MP 0448 is the McGee Center lobby renovation project. Hear a motion? Second? All right. Please cast your vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Item C, change order number 1 with the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust in the City of Oklahoma City for Project 180 Streetscape, Robert S. Kerr and North Hudson to North Harvey and North Harvey Avenue from Park to D&A McGee. Mike, you have questions?
Yes, ma'am. And this goes back really to a question that Mr. Roth asked earlier. This particular package does have milestones associated with it and therefore incentives and disincentives. The project started 21 days late due to some interrelated work on package 6A and needs of adjacent property owners. So this change order just adjusts the dates of those milestone completions by 21 days. There's no cost increase or decrease associated with the change order.
Okay, have a motion. Do I hear a second? Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Thank you. Mike, you're just full of all information today, aren't you?
You guys are doing me a big favor.
Item D is amendment number 4 and change order number 4 for projects PC 0394. It is the package 7A for project 180. No, item D is the amendment 4 and change order 4, package 6A, project 180.
And as always, this amendment and change order breaks changes to the contract down by PC or paving portions and WC or water portions. The changes to the PC portion is related to fitting various traffic signals and pedestrian signals around private underground infrastructure at the 4th and Robinson intersection, as well as some alterations to electrical vaults on the east side of Robinson. The water changes are really related to the opportunities that presented themselves when the pavement was removed and actually getting to look at the existing water line. We were able to find a more efficient route for the new water line.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions, further questions? Entertain a motion? Move. Second. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Well, Mike, here we go. Item E, final plans and specifications to be advertised for bids, project MP 0447. It's the City Hall lawn renovation project.
The design for City Hall lawn will continue this theme of sweeping walls that was instituted over at Bicentennial Park, while also keeping the majority of the mature trees and established foundation plantings around the building. Your approval today will allow the bids to be accepted on January 21st. Anticipated construction would be in February of 2015. Current construction budget is just over $2.1 million, and the current engineer's estimate is $1.9 million.
Yes, Larry.
And Kathy, maybe you can refresh my memory on this. When we were doing the Bicentennial Park, people got quite involved in the architectural and landscaping design of that. Has the public had a chance to see what's involved in this City Hall lawn renovation, and are we expecting the same kind of second guessing that occurred at that time?
Yes, they have, and no, we don't. I mean, for one thing, the changes to the lawn around City Hall are less extensive than the changes that were made to Bicentennial Park. We're keeping a lot of the mature trees, keeping the foundation plantings, really just redoing the sidewalks and adding those curved sidewalks in to certain areas to kind of match the design, redoing the fountain because the fountain leaks and is not operable anymore, but keeping the historic shape of the fountain and not making as dramatic a change as we did in Bicentennial Park. But I believe this has already been to Downtown Design Review and has been through other public design review processes in addition to this meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I hear a second? Second. All right, please cast your vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Oh my gosh, Mike, you're sitting down. Okay. Item F is the City Center Residential accepting the deed of declaration and covenants. It's a joint resolution with the city and Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust accepting the deed of declaration of covenants and the corresponding subordination agreements required for City Center Residential. Any questions? Comments?
Kathy, if you can, just clarify the date is 3 years ago, but this is now evidence of completing project, is that right?
Well, I don't know. Brent's grinning, so.
The project was completed a couple of years ago, but as part of our agreement, they have to agree to a minimum payment, and the time has come where they can make the request for their TIF payment, and all that we're doing here is just accepting those minimum payment covenants and the subordination agreement that the lender is actually subordinating to us regarding in case there was a default and they would still pay their property taxes. And that's we rely on that, so we know we're getting the TIF money back over time that we're providing them now.
Okay. Any further questions? Hear a motion? Do I hear a second? All right. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Thank you. Item G on the agenda is the EDA for Rock Island Plow. This is a joint economic development agreement with the city and Rock Island Plow, LLC, to provide assistance in development financing and low-interest, non-forgivable loan for the Rock Island Plow commercial and office building project at 29 East Reno Avenue, in an amount not to exceed $1,850,000. Kathy?
Just as a reminder, this building is in Bricktown. It's probably the oldest building in Bricktown. The plan is to convert it into office. The request is for a $1.3 million assistance in development finance provision from TIF, and then the rest of it is a low-interest loan in the amount of $500,000.
Any questions of Kathy? Hear a motion? Second? Okay, please cast your votes. Motion carries. Thank you. Item H is OCU Law Building. It's a joint economic development agreement with the city and OCU Law Building Associates, LLC, to to provide assistance in development financing for the OCU Law School project at 800 North Harvey Avenue in an amount not to exceed $500,000. Anticipated classes will start in January.
And this project is, this $500,000 that was allocated to OCU for the law school is being spent in the public right-of-way. So it's new sidewalks and lighting and repairs and things like that.
Is that what in the vicinity of means then?
Yes, that's what in the vicinity of means.
I have a motion for approval. Do I hear a second? All right, please cast your votes. Motion carries. Thank you. Item I is GOLT for Enable, an allocation resolution. It is joint resolution with the city approving the allocation of general obligation limited tax bond proceeds and/or investment proceeds in the amount of $450,000 for the Enable Midstream Services LLC Economic Development Agreement. Any questions?
Do you want to take I and J together, or should we do them separately?
I think we have to do them separately. Is that correct?
Then I'll move I.
Okay. Do I hear a second? Please cast your votes. Motion carries. You're on a roll.
J.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second? All in favor? Please cast your votes. Yeah, there we go. Item K is an alliance, the first quarter report and year-end audit report. Kathy, I think it's turning over to you now.
Just want to kind of hit the high points in my first quarter report. It's included in your packet. Again, this is a requirement of the contract that that the Alliance has with the Economic Development Trust in the city. We spent a lot of time in the last quarter, and we're still spending a lot of time on some pretty significant projects downtown and some others, and especially in the northeast part of Oklahoma City. One of those is the Convention Center Hotel. We've been working with, briefing the city council, meeting with stakeholders, working with our consultant to begin the process of preparing a request for proposals to identify a hotel developer. This quarter, we're in the process of drafting that RFP and hope to issue it sometime in January. On the job creation front, we've worked quite a bit on the purchase of the BNSF rail yard. That's still moving forward. GE Global Research Center under construction. That's actually a project of the Urban Renewal Authority. We have closed on the land. GE now owns the property. They're under construction. Everything's going well with that project. Project AOTP is another project that we're working on with the Chamber of Commerce, another major job creation project, and Project Trees was another one that we met with over that last quarter. Just as a reminder, in northeast Oklahoma City, we're in the process of creating a new urban renewal area and a new tax increment financing district. The urban renewal plan area and the TIF district creation were both approved or recommended for approval by the Planning Commission last week, and so those will be going forward to the City Council at the end of this month and then for final approval in January. So we're moving forward with both of those major initiatives for Northeast Oklahoma City. We continue to meet with people interested in development in Northeast and very encouraged at the level of interest and the different types of projects that people are talking about there. And downtown development, obviously some of the major things are the OG&E headquarters project and the Clayco development. During the last quarter, we worked with the city to develop a process for putting the property that's owned by the city and the Economic Development Trust out for a request for proposals for a redeveloper. Those proposals were received in October, and we're in the process of, the Urban Renewal Authority has designated Clayco as the conditional redeveloper, and we're in the process of working through some of the preliminary details that you go through to enter into a redevelopment agreement with them. We continue to work on the Journal Record building. We have that under contract, and we hope to close on that soon. parking garage development, where we still are talking about trying to build more parking garages downtown, and obviously recognize that as an important part of the continued success downtown. So that pretty much wraps it up. It was a busy quarter, lots of work on the hotel and OG&E and Clayco and the Northeast projects. Also included is the Alliance's year-end audited financials for your review as well.
Yes, Larry.
You mentioned that the BNSF railroad deal, that's a tinker,
Yes.
and the Alliance is involved in that?
Yes.
You mentioned it was moving forward,
Yes.
okay? Moving forward at what speed, what obstacles do we look at facing, and when do we expect to get to the destination?
We expect to get to the destination very soon. I think we made a major breakthrough about a week ago with BNSF. I think that it's been a difficult negotiation, and there were some issues that the Air Force couldn't agree on that BNSF was insisting on, and I think finally BNSF realized that the Air Force was serious. So I hope that we know or can set the closing date within the next couple of weeks. It's moving slowly.
By the end of January, you're
Yes.
optimistic?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Jim.
Thank you. Just a couple of follow-up questions. First, I wouldn't say this necessarily slowly when we've had the conversation starting 10 or 12 years ago. I feel like you're doing a lot lately, so good luck with that.
It still feels slow.
I bet it does. I bet it does. I'll touch on a couple of issues that you shared in your update. Journal record building under contract. Can you describe for me a little bit more what that means?
It is under contract with Bond Payne and his development group, his entity. He recently asked for an extension on closing, but he's doing his due diligence and trying to get the information in order that he needs to feel comfortable with closing.
Okay.
But it is, I'm trying to remember all the details of the transaction. There is an outstanding MURA loan on the building. In effect, he would enter into a new MURA loan when he buys the building, except that it will be repaid, maybe repaid slowly, but it would be repaid. Right now, the INC Trust, the Industrial and Cultural Facilities Trust, owns the building and has MURA loans outstanding in connection with it. We're not making any payments on those, and there was never any expectation that we would. And then at closing, he would also receive an allocation of tax increment financing for the building. So we're just waiting for him to get some financing things in place, whether or not he'll be able to qualify for New Markets tax credits, the historic tax credit piece, all of those different complicated parts of this transaction he's trying to get his hands around.
Okay. Thank you for the detail. Nice to see something.
Yeah.
I imagine it's complicated. A question on the Clayco and OG&E that you described, pretty significant undertaking, obviously. What are the TIF thoughts associated with it, in and around it, or captured from it?
Right. Clayco has requested that a new TIF district be created for their project. They feel that they will need the full 25 years that it's allowed under state statutes for a tax increment financing district. We have begun working on and discussing whether or not we would want to consider creating a larger TIF district carved out of the downtown TIF to go ahead and include the convention center site and the convention center hotel so that we don't have to come back 6 months from now and go through the same process again. So we are beginning discussions about that and presentations to the policymakers involved, and trying to figure out if that seems like a good approach to people. But that's what we're looking at.
To the extent you can share, Clayco's thought process is that would allow them to have the benefits in the vicinity of their developments, is the purpose?
No, what we're hoping is that we will not allocate all of Clayco's increment to their project, and that we will have increment available to help support other projects, like parking for the convention center hotel, we're going to have to build a significant amount of parking downtown to support the new convention center and the convention center hotel. And some of that may have to be underground, and underground parking is very expensive to build. So we're trying to identify where can we come up with resources in addition to COTPA's, the Transportation and Parking Authority's bonding capacity to help make that happen.
Right.
So that's really what we're hoping, is not that Clayco gets the benefit of other developments, but that we get the benefit of Clayco's development.
Right, okay, I appreciate hearing that, and I think that makes absolute sense. When we say Clayco, are we referring to multiple buildings in the aggregate? Is it one particular building? Because I think I saw plans that there's residential towers associated with it, and so I'll just offer my opinion may be that a residential project has other effects around an area beyond just an office tower occupied during business hours. And so and I know you were more mindful of this than me even, that it's a different animal than maybe Devon.
Right. And the Clayco proposal includes 2 office towers and 2 residential towers. The initial office tower that will be constructed is the OG&E headquarters building, and then the first residential tower will follow pretty closely after that. The second office tower and the second residential tower are really, in some ways, contingent upon their ability to lease those spaces up and how successful they are with the first residential tower. I think that I'm encouraged because I think Clayco is trying to build a project or has designed a project that helps promote the urban environment and responds to the market that we have down here and the desire for people to live here and work here. So, I mean, I'm pretty excited about the project and the level of investment and the team that they've assembled.
Any other questions? I just want to verify, I don't believe we all received a copy of your first quarter report and year-end audit. Okay, I didn't know if there was another distribution. Yeah, so it wasn't in our packet. Okay. All right. Oh, we'll take yours. Thank you. Okay, cool.
Is there action required associated?
To accept.
Amanda, is there any kind of time, can they defer the report to next month?
I believe they can defer it till next month and then vote on it at that time.
Okay. We will defer the report. Thank you. General Manager's comments.
In the essence of time, through October, we had a significant amount, as you saw on your docket. We've had a lot of payments and things that have occurred. We'd like to point out to you on page 4 and 5, we've updated some of the projects. Boeing, as we talked about, the first year of Boeing number 2, they ended at 554 jobs. Boeing 1 ended at 240 new jobs with an average salary of $115,000. These are significant projects that are impacting our economy. And with that, the Strategic Investment Fund spent about $12 million to date. We'll be spending a significant amount more when we finalize the BNSF project. And then we have a lot of TIF projects that are coming along that we'll be making payments in the first quarter of next year. So a lot of good things are going on. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't I seen Syntec's name on a number of the things that have been going on downtown over the last several months? They've been sponsoring some events. I think that's a real testimony to you all for working with a company like that when they come into town, are investing back into town, and they are a relatively small to medium manufacturer. They're not some big, giant conglomerate that some people are opposed to. So I think my hat's off to you all for that deal right there.
Thank you. And they're exceeding their growth in the job creation. They're exceeding what their original plan was.
Excellent. Thank you, Brent. Any other questions of Brent? Okay. Comments from staff, trustees, and citizens? Seeing none, thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned. Happy holidays.